On this digital clip, we're going to look at the value of a conversation. The value of your conversation is literally linked to the depth at which the other person has to think to take part in it. And if we want to change the way people think, and therefore the way they act, our conversations have to get inside their subconscious. We have to have a quality of conversation which requires them to think about how they're answering and to think about what it means to them. We spend a lot of time talking about stuff that really doesn't add any value to people's day-to-day lives. They're just conversations, great things to talk about, but don't really impact the way they think. So a model for understanding the weight of a conversation is logical levels. And the easiest way to describe it is with this simple sentence. I can or can't do that here. When you consider this shape and look at the depth of a conversation, far too many of us only ever exist in our conversational skills at the lowest possible level, which is at here. When somebody's world revolves around the here of that sentence, when their problems are stated in the here and now, where's the problem framed inside their head? Clearly, for most people, it's framed down at the environment. And this is where we spend most of our time talking in the UK. We meet somebody at the bus stop, we talk about the weather. Somebody's quality of work suffers, we say, a bad workman always blames his tools. The stuff of environment is very low-level quality conversations. People don't own conversations at environment. They always blame somebody else for the environment. They blame the tools for the environment. They blame their pay, the conditions, whatever it is. The quality of the conversation at environmental level is thin at best. Which is probably why when we get near miss reports, close calls, safety observations, they're always unsafe conditions. They're never about the person who created the unsafe condition. So our mission is to improve the quality of our conversations from talking about the environment and the here and now stuff and move them up a level. Well, as we move people up a level and we move them to the challenge, I guess, is that leads us to start to focus on behaviours. Because 99.7% of everything we do every day is habitual, people tend to disown their own behaviours by saying things like, it's in my genes, or I've always done it that way. It's not my fault, it's the way I've always been. Previously, we've examined why people behave the daft ways they do sometimes, and we discovered some interesting things that drive behaviour. We looked at alpha, habits, time versus risk, and personal risk perception. And those 4 triggers give us a great excuse to improve the quality of conversation from unsafe conditions to unsafe or safe behaviours. And it starts moving people from rejecting and denying they're responsible to at least recognising they're part of the solution rather than part of the problem. What starts to change significantly in people's heads is when you force the conversation from a behaviour to the skills and capabilities that they have. When we're in the realm of how do you do that, the do is the skill and capability. And in the UK, we have created a culture where capability is everything. People even include their capability in their introduction. They say, I'm Bill and I'm a scaffolder. I'm Joe and I'm a manager. They include their job description as if it's their identity. And because of that, if we have conversations that are negative around capability, people will resist at best, at worst, probably get into quite a heated debate about whether they are or not good at what they do. So capability is a really challenging and sometimes quite deep conversational area for us to go. The interesting thing about capability is most of us have forgotten how we got to be good at what we do. It's like a skill is a scaffold you build as you learn the new habit. And once the habit takes over, the scaffold gets taken down. You no longer know how you got to be good. And it takes a really interesting conversation to unlock the thinking behind the skill that created that capability in the first place. So as we move up logical levels to the can or can't, it's about understanding the beliefs and values of the individual. Beliefs are like our guiding principles. We run our lives within them. Sometimes they limit us, sometimes they set us free. Whereas values are what's important to us. They're the things that get us up in the morning and make us want to make the world a better place. Values motivate and help us understand what's important to us as individuals. And I guess the challenge with both beliefs and values is they're very personal, they're sometimes unconscious, and rarely do we discuss them in a way which helps people change. Up at the top of our logical levels triangle is the I, and the I represents our identity, our sense of self, who we are as a person and who we're going to become as we develop and do these new things. And identity is a massive driver on human behavior. We can create the right environment, we can demonstrate the behaviors we expect, we can even teach people new skills and share with them great beliefs and great values. If in their sense of self, they don't see themselves that way, their identity rules the roost. It drives behavior from the top down. And when people change at an identity level, everything below seems to fall in line with a new and improved identity. Right at the tip of our triangle is our purpose, our reason for being. But rarely do we have conversations that even come close to touching on what is our purpose. I'm sure most of you have heard the term who, what, when, where, and how. Well, when we take that approach and overlay it on logical levels, you can start to see the power of that style of approach. Because right at the bottom with environment, you're talking about the when and the where. Move up a level to behavior, you're starting to talk about the what. At capability, now you're starting to understand the how and the learning. Up at beliefs and values, it's the why, the importance of. And finally, up at identity, it's who will I become and for what purpose. This helps us understand the power of a conversation, the weight of a word, and how it lands within the subconscious mind, and therefore how it changes the way people think and behave. So logical levels is a foundational model that we can build on for future sessions.